Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we're talking about not one, not two, not three, but four potential tropical cyclones here in the North Atlantic Basin. Before we get started, however, be sure to like and subscribe as well as turn on those notifications because a good chunk of you guys are not subscribed and a good chunk of you guys do not hit the like button either. So be sure to do that, and we're just going to get right on with the video here. So looking at the National Hurricane Center. Now you do notice that there is three tropical systems, and there is I say four because there's a fourth one that looks very vigorous that's about to leave Africa pretty soon. So here are the three that National Hurricane Center has been watching. This one that had initially a 70% chance of development is down to 20. This is NBS 92L here. Showers and thunderstorms associated with a broad area of low pressure, but there are some stronger upper-level winds and cooler waters that could prevent any further development from this system. But the Cabo Verde Islands are still getting some rain and wind from this, so of course, still be on the lookout there. I think the other two systems, though, are worth watching more, and also the other system that's coming off the coast of Africa that probably will, I would estimate, in about 2 days. There's another tropical wave there, so about 1 to 2 days. The other one, this is not an invest yet. This orange one here is 93L that just got named, but this disturbance 3, also 20% chance, but it was also down to 10, so it's actually up 10%. Surface trough of low pressure, disorganized showers and thunderstorms. But notice in the direction it's heading. It is heading towards the Lesser Antilles and maybe even Puerto Rico. Hispaniola, Haiti are all in the path. Even the Southeast Bahamas are in the path of this, or in the cone, quote-unquote cone. But it's not like the real cone, but it's potentially where it's going at 10 to 15 miles an hour. So we're going to keep watching that through the middle of next week. And then here is Invest 93L, the highest of the three. 40% chance of development in 5 days. It's a small but well-defined area of low pressure. And you'll see it, like it's pretty well defined actually. Environmental conditions could get more favorable for gradual development, and we could see a depression or storm by the middle of next week. So 40% chance here and 20% chance with the other two. And we'll see what happens with the other one that comes off the coast of Africa. So 93L currently has sustained winds of about 25 miles an hour, pressure of 1,011 millibars. If you go to 92L, that does have 30 miles an hour sustained winds, but pressure is a little bit higher, and it's also been a little weaker. So 93L on the GEFS model tracks, you can see moving to the west, maybe even southwest. So what that's going to do is, if it's brought down south a little more, that could raise its chances for development a little bit because there's some slightly warmer waters possibly down here. And then we'll see. And that also is because if it goes to the Caribbean, that means it's probably going to come towards the U.S., or even if it comes north of the Caribbean, that's also a common U.S. path. If you see storms going that direction, that could be an alarm being sounded. Looking at the GEPS model tracks, and you can see these sets do bring a little bit farther north, and that's a more out to sea kind of track. All depends on how strong that Bermuda high to the north is. If it's weaker, the storm's gonna go out to sea. If it's stronger, then it's probably going to go due west a little bit more. So we're going to have to watch that high pressure system to the north of it because that always influences the steering of these systems. And look at the model guidance though. All the models here that are shown do make it a category 1, some even a 2 or 3. So, and we'll watch for that. Maybe some possibly tropical storm development within the next couple of days, and maybe even stronger beyond that. So looking at the names, just so the future names, so you can see if these systems were to be named, what would they be? The next one, whichever of the 3 or 4 systems happens to get named first, would be Fred, because we've already had up to Elsa. So Fred would be next, followed by Grace, Henry, and Ida. So I could see these 4 up to number 4 getting used. So I would say probably not past Ida. So Fred, Grace, Henry, and Ida will be the 4. If we do need to use 4, those would be the 4. So Fred, Grace, Henry, and Ida. And looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies, you can see that there are some areas of orange ahead of 92L's path, but according to the National Hurricane Center, there's also some strong upper level winds that we do have to take into account. So even if the waters do warm up a little bit, which according to the NOAA that they might, we still have to watch for the wind shear, which hasn't been too horrible, but it's up a little bit. But also warmer water is pretty much just the entire MDR region where these storms have been. Of course, our other system is back here right now, number 4 that I am personally watching. That could be emerging pretty soon. But the Gulf of Mexico is still rocking the warmth, still upper 80s there, almost 90, and the Caribbean's pretty warm as well. All right, so looking at the actual sea surface temperature anomalies, anything you see in yellow is 75 or warmer. Of course, that's not warm enough to sustain tropical development. Usually it's about 80. And you can pretty much see that by these orange shadings here. So this pretty much, I would say this region in here is all 80 plus for a rough estimate. All right, so a good chunk of the basin is at 80 plus. And if storms that come off the coast of Africa, I would say if they stay at or probably south of the Cabo Verde Islands, they're in pretty good shape because that seems to be where the warmer water is. But once these storms continue to head west, they're going to head towards warmer water. All right, so definitely going to have to be watching out for that. And here's windy.com. Now, this is better because I can see where each storm is. All right, so I will point out to you where each tropical wave is. One of them will probably be, actually, 2 of them are pretty easy to spot. But number 1 is right here. And it makes sort of a wave motion, right? Because we know a low pressure system is like this, like fully, wrapped around. This one is sort of wrapped around like halfway. So that's the center of tropical wave number 1. Here is tropical wave number 2 here. And here is tropical wave number 3 there. All right, so now if we flip over to the sea surface temperatures, we can see where each one is. So the first one is sitting at about 84-ish degree water right now, which is pretty warm. The second one's sitting at about 81 degree waters, and the other one also 81. So I would say tropical wave number 1 is sitting in the warmest water right now. 2 is heading in that direction of that warm water. Number 3, we'll see if it makes it any longer. So this is 92L, 93L here. I just memorized the location. Obviously, don't judge by these swirls. Those are ocean currents. But this is 93L here, 92L, and then our other tropical wave, which doesn't have an invest name yet, surprisingly. And then we have our other system that's back here, our other tropical wave. Of course, not visible on the wind scale yet. But look at, I told you guys how well defined this is. I mean, you can see it's very well defined here. We got pretty much a round low center right here, and the strongest winds are to the north, which it should be northeast, but of course for a tropical wave that's still very impressive. I was picking up sustained winds of almost about 30 miles an hour. So according to the European model, and solid wind gust of pretty much close to 40. So that's pretty good. All right. Now let's look at each one of these on satellite. I brought out the Y loop so you could see the first system. The other 3 I'll be able to show you closer in because when they're named Invest, Tropical Tidbits will give them a closer up satellite image. So there's the first system right about there, looking pretty decent. All right. We got some pretty strong areas of convection. And remember, this is because, as I showed you, if you watch my my past 1 or 2 hurricane season update videos, you see that this is the way the tropics, or the activeness of the tropics is, right? Do you remember how the Eastern Pacific had like 3 or 4 systems at once that one time, like not too long ago? Well, now that's starting to happen in the Atlantic because that motion of more convection is starting to move in this direction. So pretty soon, as the Atlantic continues to get more active, we're in a bit of a in-between period right now where both the Atlantic and the Pacific are pretty active. But eventually, the Atlantic will really get active, or at least continue to be as active as it is now. And eventually, the Pacific will start to calm down again. Not saying that Atlantic and Pacific are always flip-flop, but they can be and they sometimes may not be. So there's our first tropical wave. Here is 92L. As you can see, here is the Cabo Verde Islands here. So really, you can see not much left, and the convective activity has really started dying down. And there's really no clear representation of the center. I mean, it's probably wrapped in there somewhere, but it's not easy to see. Now, this storm right here, you could pretty easily tell the center. All right, it's right there. Now, it's not attached with the convective activity. Yes, I will admit it did look impressive on the wind graph, but it does need to be stacked better. But there is some convection, all right? Remember, it's just a tropical wave. It has time to get organized, and it's definitely got the environment to do it. I think chances will continue to see them go up. But you can clearly tell the spin right here. I mean, there is no mistaking that, all right? Pretty much right about here. So we will watch for some convectiveness to grow on the northern side. And even though the strongest winds are up there, not too much in the way of precipitation and cloud cover, so that would need to change. Now here is the other system I've been watching. And this convective wave, now it's all strung out like that because as you get farther away from the loop, it might do that. But you can see, regardless of the stretching out phase, but you can see the tons of convection that's coming out of this. So if it holds together, that could be potentially another tropical wave that the National Hurricane Center might watch, might become another invest. So here you can see a little better 92L is right there. So not lost completely, but there is convection has been going down with that one. But the other system right here, I would also continue to watch that one in the near future. So here's a look at the dry air, and as you've been seeing, if you watch my last hurricane season discussion, you can see that the dry air is really fading away. Now this dry air was over here last time, so any dry air that's left is pretty much retreating towards the Gulf and the Caribbean. It'll probably fade away after that. But all these systems, all right, 1, 2, 3, really not much dry air for where they're currently at. There is a little bit of dry air to the north of them, and I think when you saw 93L and you saw how there was no, I'm sorry, it's 92, this one, you see how there's no convection at point center to the north? That could be because there is some dry air to its north, and I think that could be prohibiting that a little bit for right now. But you notice with 92L, sort of the same thing. We didn't see too much convection up here on the northern side of it. And obviously you would need to see that. Our other tropical wave can't really tell because it's just pretty much a cluster of thunderstorms. There's no, I mean, obviously that the point of center is about here. We can tell by the National Hurricane Center, but obviously just by looking at the satellite, we wouldn't be able to tell where the center is like this one, right? We can tell where the center is with that. So not much dry air. Wind shear, honestly, not too much either. Looking in the dark blue regions, right, this is where wind shear is really low. And even the green, it's still about 22 knots or less, 25 knots or less. So that's not, honestly, even the green is not too bad. But the blue is what you want. And if we look at the coordinates for all these systems, all right, and we just had the APM update come in, but I'll refresh it just in case. So we can see the others, our tropical wave that's in front, the furthest west, it's sitting at about 52-ish west and about 11 north. So if we look at the satellite imagery on that, that system is sitting right about in here somewhere. And it's going to continue to move in this direction. So not much shear, a little bit maybe when it hits the Caribbean, but it's sitting in that blue area right now. And I mean, assuming it stays that way, heading to another area of blue once it crosses over the Caribbean. The problem from there would be land interaction. But it's heading into an area of low shear as well. All right, so let's get the next one, which is 93L. And that's sitting at about 41 degrees west and about 14 degrees north. So if we look at that one, that is sitting pretty much about in here. So also very low shear. And it's going to be heading sort of in probably this direction in the near future. So again, it's in that blue and maybe a little bit of green. Very dark green if so. So again, very low shear. And finally, oh, yes, don't forget to subscribe. I didn't mean to click that one. But 92L is sitting at about 26 degrees west and about 14-ish, maybe 15 degrees north. So if we look at that one, that is sitting at about over here near the Cabo Verde Islands. And again, very low wind shear. So that's the pattern I've been seeing. 92L, the Hurricane Center could be talking about a lot of shear to its south. That could be why to its south you don't see too much convection. That's understandable. But shear does look a little lower right now. All right, and that's the tendency in the past 24 hours. All right, just updated, really nothing changed. So let's look at the relative humidity because, I mean, if I were to zoom in further on the storm, of course, we have to wait for that from the Tropical Tidbit site. But you can see how the storm is stacked if it's rotating fine. Like, for example, if we look at the first system, we see upper level or mid-level winds coming out this way and then this way. It's kind of all a mess, but you can see the moisture there. Same with this system. Like, we see a mid-level center down here, but the surface center is here. So that means it's not perfectly stacked. And same thing with 92L. Our surface center is here, but yet mid-level winds at that same latitude and longitude are coming out of this direction, which means it's getting sheared off. and that's not good. But we will see it continue to move. So here's the first system. All right, we see the first system pretty much here, the second system here. They sort of crisscross paths with each other, so it gets a little kind of confusing. But there's those two systems right there according to the GFS model. All right. And then, again, we're going to watch for more tropical waves. So there's the one I was watching right here. All right, so that's going to be appearing right here. Then there's another one behind that one. So, again, many tropical systems to watch. But I titled it 4, not 5 or 6, because there's 4 that are on my radar right now. Ones that we can see on the Tropical Tidbits satellite, and ones that are going to keep my eye on. And also, it's how the tropical wave looks as well. If it looks like it's falling apart, then it's obviously not worth watching unless it refires again. So everything is worth watching. But if a tropical wave is falling apart before it leaves land, I can't see it doing too well on the ocean. But of course, we keep an eye on everything. So here's the cyclonic vorticity signature, so you can see a little bit better. All right, and you can see here is system number 1. Here's 93L. Here's 90. You can see 92L. You don't see the reds that you see on the other two systems, right? And again, it's not as convectively, held together. It's starting to weaken a little bit. Could merge with the other one actually. But here is our first tropical wave, the one in front, the one without a name yet. And you can see these two have almost sort of merged together, 92 and 93L. You can see that one right there. And then the wave that I'm watching, so there it is, pretty much in the middle right here. Of course, the models haven't really picked up too much on it yet. But now we're starting to get a little long term, so I won't go out that far. But you can see the other 3 making their course throughout the Atlantic here. So here's the GEM model, right? And you can see, look at the moisture pick up, right? You can see the dark greens, and that pretty much hits the islands by about late Monday into Tuesday. So that's the time frame to watch out for in the Lesser Antilles and the Windward Islands. Right, and then it continues. So Puerto Rico maybe by overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, Haiti and Hispaniola by maybe late Wednesday into Thursday. All right, and you can see there's a lot of moisture, even some blue starting to show up, which is like top of the line in terms of moisture content. So, and there's our Invest 93L, 92L somewhere back here. But of course, the mid-level winds aren't very, supportive. There's the mid and low-level centers aren't really lining up too well. So here's pretty much 93L, kind of evolved into a little gust front, looks like. 92L is somewhere down here at this point, according to the GEM model. And then our next wave, we'll be watching that one as well. All right, so definitely a lot to keep our eyes on. Actually, I'm sorry, the next wave is right here. This is the next wave. You can tell how the green moves, right? It's got its own little cluster, if you will, so that's something to watch out for. But notice, there is a mid-level center here. Looks like with maybe 92L this is. So there is a mid-level center. The question is, where is the low-level center? Because the mid-level center is here and the low-level center is here. That's not good. But if the low-level center is here, then that's good because it means everything is stacking properly. All right, so looking at the cyclonic vorticity signature, again, you can see we have our 3 systems here, number 1, number 2, and number 3. All right, and we'll be watching them very closely. Of course, this is definitely a lot to keep watch over. All right, so then there's the next, potentially the next wave. There's the next one behind that. So let's just say it's going to be very busy coming up here. And finally, let's look at the European model so you can see. So the European model here is 93L, and they take that through the Bahamas through the next, but that's 5 days. So that means if that's actually 5 days, let's say the European model is right, then the National Hurricane Center's cone would be like this. So because their cone usually represents 5 days. So we'll see. Definitely a lot to keep watch over. A lot of waves to watch. I can't say 100% sure, but I can pretty much assure that these 3 or 4 are not the end of the tropical waves that we're seeing coming off the coast of Africa. So thank you guys for watching today's video. I am Doyle the Dude signing off. Till next time, I will catch you guys in the next video.